What's up, y'all? It's your boy G, San Francisco Bay Area, California. Aloha. So yeah, remember when we did the Pledge of Allegiance when we were kids? One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible. What's that? Indivisible. We are a nation so divided right now. I can't even understand how we got there, right? Because half the nation's like, we want people off these SNAP benefits, no food stamps. And then the other half is like, well, the only people that suffers in the end is kids, right? So if you just woke up this morning and have not been paying attention, what's going on with the government right now is that there's a shutdown. Like, it's been going on for about 30 days almost, like a full month. And basically there's a bill out where the Republican Party wants to cut funding for Medicaid. And the Democrats don't want to do that. So they're trying to reverse it, which is leaving us in a tailspin where, they shut the government down because until they come to a resolution, there's not any more funding going out. Because of that, they're cutting benefits to programs like SNAP, which is the food stamp program. If you can remember that from way back when. But anyway, same thing. So they're cutting benefits to SNAP, and half the population wants it over with, and half the population doesn't, because it affects the kids. I could tell you that I'm kind of in the middle because, I don't want anyone to live off of the government for an extended amount of time because it's only a temporary solution. However, I'm not with cutting off the benefits like immediately. I want people to have at least 6 months to a year to figure out exactly what to do and how they could pivot so that they could effectively transition over to maybe a job or something and, slowly get off the benefits. I tell you, when I was young, my mom, we were on public aid, right? So, and my mom told me a long time ago that she used to go to a grocery store, and because she was working, she had a job, she was working at a clothing store, and she had 2 kids, she was divorced, and she used to go to this grocery store with her friends, and her cart was, she had some items in her cart, but her friends, their carts would be full of food. Full. To the point where food was falling out of their cart. Like, canned goods was rolling out to the aisle and stuff. And it used to make her so mad to the point where she was like, forget this. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go on public aid. Because this is what my friends are doing. And they have all this extra time and they're not working in anything. And they're living the life. So I'm going to do the same thing. And that's what she did. And that was basically the beginning of the end right there. Because as you all know, an idle mind is the devil's playground, right? So SNAP benefits pretty soon are coming to an end, at least for the time being. But the whole point of this video is basically, over the past few years, a lot of people have been depending on the federal government as their backup plan in terms of financial prosperity. And, we've been depending on the federal government for EBT, for student loan forgiveness, people that have jobs in the federal government, they're expecting to, they want their pay. They're not expecting to be furloughed or anything like that. Of course, when we lose our jobs, we want unemployment benefits, which that's also government. But I kind of take the Dave Ramsey approach when it comes to that. Basically, we shouldn't be depending on the government for any type of financial prosperity or, to improve our situation financially. A lot of the candidates, when they do their marketing campaign or their campaign or whatever, it's set up to where they will have you thinking that 90% of your financial issues, that they could solve that. But the fact is, 90% of your individual financial issues you can solve. Only maybe 10% is what the government can solve, right? And don't get me wrong, there are policies that individual candidates can contribute to, taxes, regulations, jobs, and things like that. But overall, we should not be depending on the federal government in order for us to move forward financially. Okay, so as far as financial prosperity, the rules, if you maintain these rules, it doesn't matter who's in office or what the administration is doing, you're going to succeed financially, right? And the rules, of course, are don't go into debt. And if you are in debt, constantly work on lowering your debt. And then once you get out of debt, don't go back into it, right? You want to always have an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of your expenses. What's the other one? Live below your means. You want to invest, you want to spend money on assets that make you money. And as far as income is concerned, you want to have a backup plan. If you lose your job, you want to develop skills that'll, help put you back into the job market. If you're going to college, you want to pick up a STEM degree, something that focuses on math and science. If you're trying to become an entrepreneur, acquire the business acumen to do so effectively, utilize your economies of scales. And if you're an individual, community-wise, practice group economics. There's a lot of talk right now going around about this 50-50 in relationships, when all that is group economics in its simplest form. And there's not one financial expert out there that'll say that group economics is not good for you financially. Financial experts will disagree and agree on different things, but they'll never disagree on group economics. They all will say that will help you out financially. So, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, you don't want to be waiting on the government for any type of government handout. As we all know, the government's always changing, right? I'm in my mid-40s. I've seen about 7 or 8 different presidents already, right? And each of them, some of them are just in different offices. They're in different administrations. So different policies, right? There's things that are always changing. Technology is always changing, right? AI is, we got drones delivering stuff to people's address. Like they could do all types of things. Biology's changing, right? We got different viruses coming out, and even those viruses are mutating. So we got to constantly adapt to these changes, right? And there's 330 million people in the United States. You think the government is going to stop doing what they're doing and then focus specifically on you and your situation? No, they got to do whatever is best for all the 330 million people in the United States, right? So you're either going to adjust or you're just going to get left behind. That really is the key factor here. The wealth gap is ever increasing. It's always increasing, right? So, but you want to make sure that you're on the other side of the wealth gap, to where, you don't want to be stuck so far behind that it's hard for you to catch up, right? And I kind of see it like, you ever see like documentaries or like a movie or something where there's a flood, there's a helicopter, and the helicopter puts their ladder down to save somebody. And so now they have a couple seconds to grab onto the helicopter, and the helicopter has to take off because of the weather and the winds. The minute they grab that last step in the helicopter, they can actually, keep climbing up. They have the ability to do that, to take the next step and the next step and the next step. Whereas if they don't grab that first handle on that ladder, then the helicopter is going to take off, and then they lose the ability to even climb the ladder, right? That's the wealth gap. That's exactly how it works. You're going to get so far behind that it doesn't matter how far you jump up in the air, you're not going to grab anything. You're always going to be left behind. So right now, things are to the point where it's almost like playing a game of Monopoly, right? So many companies and people, it's almost like for every property in Monopoly, they already put the hotels and they already put the houses down, right? So it doesn't matter how you roll the dice, you're going to land on somebody's property and you're going to be paying big unless you own some of the property, right? And it's to the point right now where if you roll the dice and you get to go to jail, that's actually the benefit. That's crazy, right? But at least you won't lose any money. You don't pass go and you don't collect 200, but you won't lose any money. And things shouldn't be set up that way to where no matter how you roll, you're going to land on somebody else's property, right? And I say somebody else's property before the game even started because a lot of these people bought these properties in the 70s, 80s, right? They only spent $50K on these properties, and now they're worth millions, especially here in California. So you don't want to ever find yourself on the other side of the wealth gap to where no matter how you roll the dice, you're going to land on somebody's property and you're going to lose, right? So again, get your financial house in order. Don't get left behind. Don't rely on the federal government to save you. They're not going to save you. They have to do what's in the best interest of people as a whole, which is a lot of times not going to align with what you're doing and your very own financial goals and pathway. Shameless plugs. If you are starting a business and you need a small website, hit me up. 9 p.m. Design. Click on the link in the description below. Also, I just launched a new clothing line, Vasport Travel Wear, business and leisure for those that like to travel. Click on the link in the description below to support my online store, Vasport Wear. Nah, we out of here. That's all I have for you today. Stay blessed. It's your boy, San Francisco, Bay Area, California. I'll holla at y'all later. Aloha. If this video was of value to you, like, comment, share, subscribe, and as always, it's your boy G. Be blessed. I'll holla at you later. Aloha.